It's been a very busy 12 months for fast Volkswagens. First we got the Golf GTI, then we got the Tiguan R, then we got the Golf R, and now we've got this, the Polo GTI. Now I know what you're thinking, that doesn't look much different than the old one. Well, I can tell you it is different. It's more expensive, it has a whole lot more stuff. Let's take a quick look. Even though this is a quick video, we are going to talk about all the things we normally talk about. How much it costs, what do you get, what's it like to drive, what's it cost to own, all of that good stuff. If you haven't already, can you please make sure you hit subscribe so that you know whenever we post a new video to the channel, and hit the bell button so your phone gets a little dingly-lingly thing when that happens. Let's get on with it.
The Volkswagen Polo GTI needs little introduction as one of Australia's favourite hot hatches. It's been around for nearly 20 years and has seen off rivals from Peugeot, Citroën and Renault, which is impressive given the French kind of do really good hot hatches. For the MY22 Polo, Volkswagen has not only given the exterior a light freshen up, the German giant has thrown a ton of tech at the small hatch to set it apart from its rivals from Hyundai, Ford and Toyota.
First up for 2022, there are some cosmetic changes. The first and the most obvious one is this red. That is quite a colour. It's only on the GTI and it is new to Volkswagen. In the photos, it kind of looks a little bit flat, but when you get a look at it, it's got a really nice depth to it and even a kind of a chalky effect that I quite like. These Matrix LED headlights, they're new. They're part of the driver assist package and part of the big price rise from the 21 to the 22, but they're really cool. Super high tech, the kind of thing you'll find on a much more expensive car. And you've got this full width LED light bar. Doesn't do much, but it does look awesome if you're in the car in front in the dark or in the wet. Of course, the GTI has its own bumpers, its own hexagonal inserts here, black splitter, LED driving lights. It does look really cool. It's not too much, it's not over the top. No GTI Volkswagen has ever been like that.
The MY22 Polo range starts at $25,250 for the manual life, $27,250 for the DSG, $31,250 for the DSG only style, and for the top of the range GTI you see here, $38,750. Volkswagen says there is 10 grand of new equipment on board the GTI for a 5 grand price rise. You can read more about the Polo range in my written reviews, the links are in the description.
One of the most surprising things about the Polo is the size of its boot. I mean, yes, it's a little car, but it's got 351 litres. That's a stack of space for a tiny little car like this. What's more, that is actually a bigger boot than bigger cars like the Corolla, and it's also much bigger than most other cars in the segment, which are about 100 litres down. And under the boot, you've got a space saver spare, very important to know in this country, and it replaces the 18-inch alloys when you get a flat because it doesn't have run flats. Here in the back of the GTI, and pretty much any Polo really, it's not big. I'm going to call it snug, which is slightly bigger than cozy in motor journalist speak. Look, I'm sitting behind where I sit. I'm 180 centimetres tall. I'm doing okay here. I've got a little bit of knee room. The back of the seat's soft, so you're not hard up against some plastic shell. My feet fit reasonably well under the seats, so I'm comfortable for a reasonable journey. I don't want to spend 8 hours back here, but I'm okay. Now, one of the reasons I don't want to spend 8 hours back here is there's no armrest and therefore no cup holders, but you do get 2 USB-C chargers to charge your devices, so at least you can distract yourself watching something on your phone. There is a bottle holder. You'll probably get maybe a 750ml bottle in there, but there's not a lot of storage back here apart from these map pockets for things that we don't use anymore, being maps. Here in the front you have different Polo GTI seats. Now, I don't have much to complain about in the standard GTIs. They have very comfortable seats. These have a bit more bolstering. They're a lot more comfortable, a lot more supportive, which is handy when you're going around corners. Like the rest of the Polo range, there is a lot of tech in here. It's just a little bit upgraded. So you've got the digital dash, which is across the entire range now. You've got the 9.2-inch screen, which is up from 8 in the other cars. 2 USB ports, wireless charging, again, all the way across the range. And it really does feel like, yes, you've spent a lot of money on this car, but you're getting a lot of stuff for it. CarPlay and Android Auto are both USB and wireless. And so when you've got together the 2 USB-C ports in the back, the 2 in the front and the wireless charger, you can charge 5 phones at once. Good luck getting 5 people in here happily, but yeah, you can get 5 phones charged. Leather steering wheel with a flat bottom. Obviously the other Polos just have a round wheel. Plenty of functionality here, both in the dash and on the wheel. The dash is configurable and it changes color when you go into sport mode. Again, it's a really nice cabin and there's tons of room. It always amazes me how much room there is in a Polo, given its tiny footprint. Look, it's not an avant-garde design. No Volkswagen interior is like that, but it's really comfortable. There's tons of headroom. I mean, I do have the sitting quite low, but again, it's a very spacious interior in what is a very small car.
Part of the price rise is a big uplift in safety specifications. The MY22 Polo has a sparkling fresh 2022 5-star ANCAP rating, as it now has a centre front airbag to prevent head clashes in a side impact. It's a huge safety list and you can read more about it in my written review on the website.
Volkswagen fans will know this engine well. It is the 2-litre EA888 with 147 kilowatts and 320 newton metres of torque. It also has a 6-speed DSG. Now, the power figures, that's pretty familiar for this part of the segment, but nobody else has a DSG. That is a big point of difference and kind of covers why it is so much more expensive than the other cars. Fuel-wise, it'll do about 6.5 litres per 100 k's on the combined, but there's no way anyone who owns this car is going to drive it that gently.
Volkswagen offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty with roadside assist and cap price servicing. A 3-year care package is $1,400 and 5 years is $2,750, both of which are a reasonable saving over pay-as-you-go, especially the 5-year plan.
This is really good. It's a very safe feeling car. What it's got is a very stable platform from which you can have a lot of fun. You can feel that potential in the chassis, of course. It's got the firmer ride and you can switch between normal and sport. There isn't a great deal of difference between those two in the suspension. Let's be upfront about that. It really does roll off the gearbox and the throttle a bit, but it doesn't make a huge amount of difference to the suspension. But you do get that, just that little bit extra when you switch up into sport. But what you get is a bit more sparkle from the drivetrain, and that's kind of cool. You get that sharper crack on the throttle. This is a really fun little hot hatch that at all times remains very safe. And what I mean by that is there's no letting go with this car. It's very, very gentle. You know, the Ford Fiesta ST, it's a bit more of a live wire. And you've also got to remember, in its segment, this is the only car with automatic. This is a 6-speed DSG with the 2-litre engine. And the other cars in the segment are very different. You've got the 1.5 litre turbo manual 3-cylinder in the Fiesta, and a very different engine again with the manual in the Hyundai i20N. It's more planted than those two cars. So when you brake, there's no playfulness. It doesn't move around. That's not a criticism. Like, let's be really upfront about that. Just because a car doesn't move around doesn't make it less engaging. It's just, it makes it more of an all-rounder. I think more drivers, particularly younger or less experienced drivers, will find it more fun on the road or on the track than those other two cars, or they'll be able to access the fun more easily. Whereas the other two need that little bit more experience to get the most out of it, but you will get more out of it. I think that makes sense. But what this does is it gives you a really easy, low stress everyday experience. But when you do turn up to a track or do turn up to a nice bit of road, you can hit a button and have some fun. And I think that really speaks to the depth of engineering in this car, that it will address a much broader part of the market. I mean, 38 grand, it is going to shut out, plus on roads, it is going to shut out some of that market, but it's the kind of car that two people in a household can agree on. You know, say my wife isn't that keen on a manual hot hatch, but she'd be perfectly happy in this car. That's just one example of how this car will give you an easier life. There's a philosophy as well as the fact that it rides really nicely, it steers really well, it brakes really well. What you do get is that much broader range of abilities in the everyday, better safety gear, semi-autonomous driving, you know, very semi-autonomous driving, just nice bit of help when you're out on the freeway to reduce the fatigue of a long trip. It's got that real Volkswagen feel of engineering solidity and quality. But I am impressed on my first experience with the Polo GTI is just how well rounded it is. And I think that's super impressive. I reckon Volkswagen has read the room with this new Polo GTI. Yes, it's a lot more expensive, but it has a lot more stuff. Volkswagen reckons it's about 10 grand of stuff for about 5 grand more. It's got the screens, it's got the safety, it's got the driver assist, it's got the performance. Really, it has everything. Yes, it's over 40 grand, but when you sit in this car, when you drive this car, you see where the money has gone. Gone are the days of bargain performance cars. What we've got now are cars that have everything. The Polo GTI delivers pretty much everything.